Hello! In this video I'm going to be dyeing some fleece, which I washed in a previous video. I'm going to be dyeing it with onion skins, which I've got a big bag of here. I've been saving these up for quite a long time. These are ones both grown in my garden and saved from our local veg box. And I'm going to be using onion skins in this video because if you haven't done natural dyeing before, they're a really great material to use as a first time because they're generally readily available. Often, you know, if you do cooking, you're likely to use onions, and you can also often get extras just by going and asking at wherever you buy your onions if you can have some of the extra skins from the bottom of the bucket that they sell them in. You can get friends to save them up for you if you want to save them up a little bit faster. They'll think you're weird, but hey ho. And there's also the fact that they don't require a mordant. Now, you might have heard the term mordant. If you've not done natural dyeing before, you might not know what that is. It's usually a metallic salt or some other kind of substance which helps to create a bond between the fibre, so in this case fleece, but sometimes fabric or yarn, and the dye stuff. So it creates a chemical bond, which means that the dye, so the colour, will actually stay on the fibre rather than just washing out when you rinse whatever it is that you're dyeing. Now, onion skins are great because they're a substantive dye, which means that they don't require a separate mordant. Onion skins have a lot of tannin in them, which is also found in things like tea and coffee and red wine, things like that, which means that they stain really well, and the tannin itself acts as a mordant in this case. And also, onions give a really nice colour, and so yes, I'm going to be showing you the process.
So for this you'll need 2 pots that comfortably hold the fibre that you're going to be dyeing and the dye stuff. I have quite big ones because I do a lot of dyeing. And these are pots that I use specifically for dyeing, so these aren't used for cooking at all. Though in this case, with the onions, for boiling up your onion skins, you theoretically could use a cooking pot, but you just want to make sure that you don't do the actual dyeing in that one, because onion skins are used in things like stock anyway. So to start off with, I'm just soaking the fleece that I'm going to be dyeing in some room temperature water. This means that when it goes into the dye stuff, the dye will take evenly and has a better chance of penetrating properly into the fibres. And then emptying all of the onion skins into the other pot. You can see they take up quite a lot of space when they're dry, and it's fairly windy outside, but I find it easiest to manage these bits of the process just outside the kitchen door, and then pour boiling water over them, and then keep adding enough water that the onion skins are completely covered so that they can swim around happily in the water. So once that is done, the onion skin water then needs to go on to simmer for quite a decent amount of time. This here has been going for about 45 minutes, and you can see that there's already a really good colour in there. And then I generally leave the dye stock to cool down a bit, and then strain it and use it for dyeing the fleece. So again, you want to be quite gentle when handling the fleece, just to make sure that you're not agitating it too much. So I'm just gently squeezing some of the water out of it so that I can use that pot to strain the dye stock into. And then here doing my little setup with my bamboo sticks, which means that my colander sits happily on top of the pot, which frees up another hand. and then just using an old bit of cheesecloth. This is one that I use for straining dyes quite regularly, so it gets a bit mucky, and just making sure that it covers over the colander so you don't get any fine particles going through. And you can see we've got a really nice dark orange dye stock there. Having left the dye stock to cool just a little bit before straining means that this bit's all a little bit easier to handle and means I'm less likely to burn myself. And then you take the fleece and just very carefully place it into the dye stock. You can already see we've got a nice orange colour there. And I'm just gently going to poke it under the surface so that you've got good coverage. And once again, this will be left to simmer on the hob, not letting it boil, for about an hour before then being completely left to cool. And then the fleece is taken out and strained once it's back to room temperature. And that means that the dye has had a good chance to adhere to the fibre, and it also means that it's less likely to felt once you're taking it out of the pot. And then I'm going to rinse the fleece in a few separate basins of water. To start with though, I'm going to add just a little bit of bicarbonate of soda to the first soak that I'm going to put it in. This will make the water slightly more alkaline, and that will shift the colour of the fleece. Usually it will turn yellowy orange shades a little bit more vibrant and warm them up. I'm just checking with a little bit of litmus paper there that I've got a decently alkaline pH. And you don't want to leave protein fibres like wool in a strong alkaline solution for too long, because it can damage the fibres. I also don't add it when I'm heating the wool, because that speeds up the damaging of the fibres. And so I'll now proceed to rinse the fleece and dry it out, as similarly to how I did in the scouring video that I made previously, which I'll add a link to below.
So after a good while of drying, we now have some beautifully dyed up fleece. You can see it's this glorious sort of golden orangey yellow colour. And I'm really pleased with it. Now I'm likely to be blending this up with other naturally dyed colours and natural wool colours, so wool that isn't white to start with. And I think it's going to be beautiful in a blend. So the next stage in this process will be to separate out all of these locks and prepare them for carding up, which then means that I'll be able to spin them into yarn. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it has encouraged you, if you've not used natural dyes before, to maybe give it a go. And so until the next video, bye bye.